Hi Natascha, thank you for joining me today for our Women Who Make It Happen series.
Hi Michelle, thank you very much for welcoming me.
You're welcome. Would you be able to give a brief introduction to you and a little bit about your current role?
Yes, of course. My name is Natascha Winberg. I am the head of financial institutions for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland for the Japanese bank MUFG. My career has been primarily in London, now in Frankfurt for the new role, and I spent it at Barclays. For 11 years, I worked in different divisions at Barclays. These included structured product sales, M&A, as well as debt capital markets, where I was in the end very responsible for the financial institutions business in the German-speaking area.
So Natascha, how did you get into financial services? What was the motivation for you?
Well, thanks for asking. I think it started when I was in university. So, or maybe even earlier. I was always kind of an adventurer. I always wanted to learn a lot and to travel. So after high school, I moved away. I lived in Spain and then in numerous other countries. Always strive to learn and get motivated and become independent from where I came from. And then when I was at university, I had very inspiring professors who taught me about the financial industry, an industry that is ever changing and that allows a lot of room to grow. And I think already during my bachelor's, I knew that was the right place for me. And then when I continued my studies, I did a very specialized master in Italy. And there I was really thrilled to become an investment banker in London.
How did you find that professor kind of influenced and shaped the direction of your career then?
I think it was a bunch of professors who I think the content of the financial industry was just really thrilling and very academic as well. So this environment, it offers a possibility of, on the one hand, being very teaching, but on the other hand, also culturally rewarding and ever changing. And these professors, they showed me the beginning, but then they opened the door that couldn't be closed anymore.
Well, clearly you've moved from Barclays, you're now with MUFG. So what do you feel has shaped that direction of your career to where you are now, having moved from London to Frankfurt? So what do you think the main reason has been?
So I see my career in 5-year steps. At some point I always I'm not bored, but I always want to test myself and I like taking risks. Barclays I always see it as my family, my home, the place I grew up to. And within Barclays, I was able to see so many different divisions. So starting with structured product sales and then debt capital markets as well as M&A, where I learned tremendously a lot and always had a focus on financial institutions. Now the role at MUFG is summarizing all this different experience. It is a risk because it's a completely different bank. And it's also, we're growing a business at MUFG now. So the German-speaking area, it's my responsibility to grow that and make that a proper business. And I think the skills I learned in these different divisions at Barclays makes me quite a good fit to do that. So I have a very deep understanding of financial institutions. I've seen the different angles, and that allows me to narrate and to have discussions with a very broad range of people. And MUFG now allows me to thrive and to really have a green field to build hopefully a very successful business.
Well, I mean, testament to you. You're in a senior leadership role. So I do just want to touch on that. So what encouraged you to become a leader and the level of seniority in which you are now?
There are different things. On the one hand, it's independence. I really like to be independent and to be able to do what I think is best. There's also a part of me enjoying nourishing talent, growing people, seeing people I work with grow, help them with their careers, giving them responsibility. And maybe most recent, it's also my little daughter. So I have a daughter, and sadly, I don't see as many senior leaders being female in our industry as they should be. So I'm half Danish. It's much different in Denmark. There it's broadly equal, but here, I mean, the more senior I get, the less counterparts I have, and the more stepping back for the family. I just want to show my daughter at some point that we can have it all and live life fully.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful message.
Also.
Interesting point. And when we're talking about TradFi and coming from that very traditional banking background and the companies associated with that, what shift in maybe mentality have you seen around that senior female cohort, or the policies that companies are putting in place as well?
Well, I think I've been a lot on roadshows with clients, and I've seen a lot of investors. And what I really like, and which I think is remarkable, is that especially a lot of the UK asset managers, they now only invest in financial institutions when they have a certain quota of women. I'm not a big fan of quota. It obviously helps me in my career, but it's just that there is this awareness that we should have diversity, and that it should not, we should not only recruit peers that are exactly the same. And that not only goes for female talent, I think that also goes for ethnic diversity. Also, that is a challenge that we face as an industry.
Yeah. How have you seen that within the companies you've worked for?
At Barclays, it was fantastic. We did various programs, and we also were very conscious about who we would hire and that we would interview enough students. And I think this is exactly the same at MUFG. That said, I have only been at MUFG since February, but it is a very diverse environment that we are moving in. A lot of people were warning, oh, you're moving into a Japanese bank, and the Japanese culture is very different to the European, and that isn't to some extent right, but we are one of the biggest banks in the world, and we have an incredibly international team around us, being very small in Germany, but having a huge presence here in London, but also in the US, and then in different areas in Asia as well, not only Japan, but also in places like Thailand and the Philippines, as well as Australia.
And when we're talking about diversity, clearly you've said it was excellent in Barclays, and you've seen all the good things within MUFG at the moment. If I flip it?
No, of course, with pleasure.
What challenges might you have encountered previously or heard of from other people in the industry?
I'd be very, very honest. I think for me, a game changer, I never had any challenges until I had my daughter 3 years ago. And I don't think it was the company or the employer, that it was more myself. I think mothers often a bit victimized. If I go on roadshows, people are asking me who was taking care of the child. They wouldn't ask my husband. And also for me, when I took my maternity leave and I came back, I was really worried that I could not face the hours that the investment banking role would require, that I simply couldn't do it. And then luckily, I had excellent managers and also excellent mentors in the bank. And I opened up, and I shared my struggle, and they were very welcoming, and they allowed me to do flexible working. And it didn't take very long until I realized I love being a mother. It's fantastic. But I equally love being a professional. And the hours I put in, that's passion. That's not because someone is telling it me. And there are ways around it. You just need to, create your environment. You need to create the circumstances, and don't let circumstances just dictate you. So I just found excellent childcare. I have a fantastic husband that is the plus. And my daughter is really happy. And when I go on a business trip, then she's proud of me, and she's just asking me to bring her a snow globe, which is kind of our thing. She and I, every time I travel somewhere, I'll bring her a snow globe. And it's very challenging to find plastic snow globes all the time because she destroys all the others.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I think this maternity leave, it's definitely, and then motherhood, it is a changer. And had I had not this great management, or also female mentors who told me how to do it, it would have been much more difficult.
What was the best advice they gave you then in that situation?
I think there was a bit of not being, be okay with not being 100% perfect. Because I was trying to be a 100% perfect mom, be always there, and a 100% perfect employee.
And sometimes we've all been guilty of that.
It's not always 100%, you cannot do it. I have very good compromises. So I try to travel or be away not more than two nights a week. Doesn't always work, but most of the time. And I try to be home at 6, and then it's from 6 to 8 that I read some stories to my daughter, and we recap on the day when I'm not traveling. And that's really quality time. And, well, I might not do the mother duties that a stay-at-home mom would do, which I hugely respect, and I think it's much more exhausting than being a professional. But I have these 2 hours with my daughter, and I spend the weekends, and we do have a very close relationship, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah. And I think it's what you said as well, it's creating that quality time, that opportunity, and you compartmentalize those parts as well. So you have your work life and your personal family life.
I think
so it doesn't encroach as much.
Exactly. I think the challenge is just the organizational and administration bit that you always need to think around. Here in London, I had a fantastic nanny who would take care of everything. Frankfurt is slightly more challenging with the childcare, but we're getting around it. So it is working, and we have grandparents there. That was also a driver for me to move back to Frankfurt.
Good. It's clearly working very well for you.
Absolutely.
Clearly with your level of role. What would you say have been maybe the key success factors for you personally achieving the level of the role that you are in today?
Thanks for asking. I think most of them all, it's passion. I just love what I do. And it makes me so...
From you, Natascha.
No, it's... I could speak, I don't know, all day about my work. If I go to bed in the evening, I still think about my clients. And if I win a trade, I'm really, really happy. So passion, definitely. And then it's also discipline. It's just getting things done. The to-do list is always long, and I always try to get as much done as possible. And then the last thing is resilience and endurance. It's sometimes really tough. You lose a trade. And I just remember I lost a big mandate on a DCM transaction. I was very disappointed client. 2 weeks later, he gave me an even bigger mandate. But this resilience, and I think success is much more defined by the ability of how many punches you can take and still be enthusiastic, rather than just winning trades and mandates. And yeah, resilience is something I always remind myself of, especially when things go wrong. Just keeping the head up, taking the smile, and getting on.
Yeah. Can I just pick up on that?
Oh yeah, always pleasure.
I think that is a very powerful message across a lot of industries, that resilience and just keep going. How do you deal with challenging situations where you have to be resilient?
Well, to be very honest, when I was more junior, I just cried a little bit, but then I got over it and I learned to manage my emotions. And now I remind myself of my successes a lot. Mm-hmm. And also I have now the experience where I think I have a good memory of a lot of challenging situations, and just remind myself how much you can grow out of it.
Yeah.
I didn't become who I am today because I just was successful and won so much, and that was very, very happy and great. No, I became because I managed difficult situations. And for me, in a very client-facing role, it's being close to the client. If it's an inconvenient message, deliver it, but be honest and find solutions.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what's character building and makes a good leader as well.
Very good answer.
Thank you.
We always say about celebrate the smaller wins. They lead to the bigger ones, and exactly find the solution. So I do want to bring all of that together and look at our typical ending question. What advice would you give to either your younger self or female talent coming into the industry?
I think, first of all, take some risks. It is very easy to let life dictate what you should do and what not, and just let circumstances push you into a job or a career that might not be the right one for you. So I have been in different teams, and every time it was a risk. Even this role now, it is a big risk. We're building up a new business here, but it's this belief in yourself, and then taking some risk. I mean, a determined risk.
Yeah.
And do it, because that makes life interesting and keeps it full. I think that's definitely the first one. And then the second one, I mean, I already touched on it, being resilient. And the last one, and that one I think is also, it comes with time and career, but be self-confident. Because very often, and I see that particularly in our female graduates, they don't have the confidence yet, and they don't think they are great, although they're doing an amazing job. But developing this confidence is helping a lot, surviving and also setting maybe the right boundaries for yourself.
Well, thank you, Natascha. Some very, very good takeaways from that. Thank you for joining me.
No, I have to thank you for the invitation. It was really a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.